Raila Odinga, Waziri Dr. Fred Matiang'i, Right Honorable Senator Kennedy Rusaka, Speaker of the Senate, my colleague, Excellency Governors, Honorable Members of Parliament, including the Senate, of course, leaders of Makueni County and the Greater Eastern Region, our host, Ambassador Ore Thonke, Chair of the Devolution Donor Working Group, Principal Secretaries, Heads of Missions, members of the County Assembly, other national government representatives, other county government representatives, private sector and civil society representatives, international delegates, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Council of Governors, I take this opportunity to welcome His Excellency the President, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, to the 7th Annual Devolution Conference, to all of you distinguished guests who have honored us with your presence here today. Karibuni. This year we meet again as devolution partners to affirm the role and place of the county government and the devolved governors in this country's development and constitutional governance. More importantly, this year's conference theme, multi-level governance for climate action, underpins a crucial and necessary aspect of national and county governance that is deeply relevant in Kenya, in the region and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my hope that the content and discussions of this year's conference will assist in developing an overall plan on strategic intervention that county governments and indeed the national government need to adapt in order to caution their constituents against the impact of changing climate. I'm personally delighted that this conference is coming right after the close of COP26 discussions, meaning that as subnational government, we have an opportunity to align our climate action interests to the commitments of the just concluded Glasgow conference. I would like to recognize at this juncture the handwork of the members of the 7th Devolution Conference Steering Committee, which comprises of my Vice Chair in the Council of Governors, who has had very able leadership as a co-chair, along with the Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Devolution, the Honorable Rose Nyamunga, who represented the Senate in the committee, Honorable Secretary General of the County Assemblies Forum, who represented CAF. Recognition is also due to the Planning Committee and all the other institutions represented here who took time to plan and prepare for the conference. Asanteni sana. I would also like to recognize the presence of our international guests who are joining us from different parts of the world for the first time. We really appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now slightly over a decade since the country adopted the current constitution, which introduced fundamental changes to the governance process and structure. At the heart of these changes is the devolved system of government, which comprises of 47 county governments in addition to the national government. Since March 2013, when the first county governments were ushered in, the country has witnessed substantial progress in terms of achievement of the constitutional goals and objectives that have guided devolution. Indeed, for the last 8 years of their existence, county governments have grown to become the primary providers in local service delivery and development. Essential and key services under the purview of the county government, but not all: health, water sanitation, roads, trade development and regulations, early childhood education, among other services that are relevant to the lives and livelihood of communities around the country. A more crucial contribution by the county government is the facilitation of participation and consultation of the people in the county governance processes. This has ensured a pursuit of democratically agreed priorities in service delivery and development, and a governance process that is responsive and sensitive to the people's need and priorities at the grassroots level. Significant strides have been witnessed in the various sectors being managed by the counties. In the last financial year, 2020-2021, county governments allocated an average of 7.3% of their budget to agriculture, an increase of 1.3%, because we realize that agriculture is a major engine of growth. Among others, these investments have gone to mechanization, increased input, access to farmers, seed distribution, and extension services. But despite these milestones, the policy and legislative environment has been very friendly to these devolved functions. While recognizing the role of national government in developing legal frameworks that set standards and practices for the agricultural sector, the Council of Governors reiterates that this should be done in consultation with county government. In the health sector, malaria incident burden has reduced to 40%, 40 per 1,000. County governments have incrementally funded interventions against the non-communicable diseases, improved screening, diagnostic capacity, and improved capacity for care. The result of these health care investments are reduced waiting time for surgery, improved clinical outcomes, reduced referrals, and efficiency at county health facilities. Maternal and child health programs have also yielded marginal increases in skilled birth attendance, contraceptions, use, prevalence, and immunization coverage. We, however, do admit that the health sector has been plagued by funding and human resource challenges, issues both levels of government are appraised of. In the wake of these challenges, the county governments have remained at the forefront in the management of the novel coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. Our health systems have faced an unprecedented challenge and their capacity tested to the limit. However, county governments have remained resilient and continue to offer innovative solutions as we tackle the global crisis occasioned by COVID-19. Since the announcement of the first case of COVID-19, county governments have achieved the following. 1, increased isolation beds, increased installation of additional oxygen plants, procured more oxygen cylinders and oxygen concentrators, connected more than 3,000 beds to oxygen, among other measures that have been instituted to manage the pandemic. May I now turn to the early childhood development and education, ECD sector. County governments allocated 4.97 billion in ECD sector in 2020-2021 financial year. With the demand for pre-primary education increasing, enrollment in the county ECD centers increased by 1.02% to 29,130 from 28,383. This includes 470 special needs units established across all the 47 counties for learners with special needs. Distinguished guests, as I mentioned at the beginning of my remarks, this year's Devolution Conference focuses on the subject of climate change and specifically looks at the role of subnational government in climate action. For the next 3 days, we'll look at a myriad of topics such as urban resilience, sustainable food systems, indigenous knowledge, renewable energy, gender and youth, and effective waste management, all with a climate change lens. These topics are both timely and relevant for these countries, and indeed, the broader region development and sustenance. Africa's socio-economic development is largely based on agriculture and land-based economic activities. A vast majority of African population is rural-based and relies on subsistence agriculture and other basic socio-economic activities that sustain livelihood. These forms of lifestyle and livelihood rely heavily on stability and predictability of climate and weather patterns, among other environmental factors. It is therefore necessary that any strategies at whatever level that seek to address developmental and governance issues should consider environmental and climatical issues at county levels. Agenda 2063, the African Union's plan for transformation, commits to tackle the challenge posed by climate change through a broad-based approach that encompasses a variety of efforts to address the ever-present threat of damage to the environment and climatic changes. At the global level, therefore, climate change is a core part of the agenda of 2030 in respect of Kenya, which compels states to come together under key commitments in the Paris Agreement of 2015. More critically and relevant to us all is that local governments are identified as primary stakeholders and have indeed become important players in climate process. Indeed, subnational governments from all over the world have proved in a number of ways that their contribution and leadership is essential to help achieve the objectives of United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC. According to UNDP, 50% to 80% of adaptation and mitigation action necessary to tackle the impacts of the changing climate are or will be implemented at subnational levels of governance. Being closer to the people, subnational governments are well placed to identify the needs and strengths of their citizens in the battle against climate change. And this is why we are thanking the World Bank for putting most of the money, which will be inaugurated today, to the county governments, all the way up to the world level. This is because in most cases, subnational governments are functionally responsible for service provisions in areas that directly influence greenhouse gas emissions levels, such as transport, agriculture, environment, energy, industry, land, and resource management. I have to finish. Distinguished guests, at the national level, Kenya is signatory to various regional and global instruments that seek to protect the environment, fight climate change, and ensure that environmental rights are guaranteed and protected. Article 2, subsection 2 of Kenya's 2010 Constitution provides that regional and international instruments that Kenya is party to are part of Kenyan law. We also have environmental and land rights as part of our expansive Bill of Rights. This is complemented by the enactment of the Climate Change Act in 2016, which lays down the specific normative framework that is to guide climate action. Over the last few years, county governments have expressed their commitment to the climate action agenda and have, in the process, demonstrated that they are indispensable and dependable players in their process. The various measures that county governments have taken to contribute to the climate action campaign not only demonstrates the technical and sophisticated nature of the solutions needed to tackle climate change, but also the effectiveness and importance of the measures taken. First, county governments have developed and are in the process of developing specific laws on climate change. As at July 2021, 29 county governments and enacted climate change acts, and the remaining ones are at advanced stage of finalizing. Through the Climate Change Act, the county governments have established their own county climate change funds to provide for financing investment to reduce climate change. While all the counties are yet to take full measures to ensure effective climate action, the vital signs made by the county governments I have just mentioned will accelerate action in the rest of the counties through mutual learning and action. The impact of the changing climate on food systems, water urban and infrastructure, energy, health, compel county governments to mainstream climate action in their county integrated development actions. Distinguished guests, as I conclude, the county governments appreciate the National Treasury for including county governments in the development and rollout of financing locally led climate action. Such initiative will go a long way in supporting county governments to invest more in programs and projects that will caution vulnerable communities from the impact of climate. The Senate also needs to consider climate change when it is negotiating for the county shares of revenue. County governments bear the greatest burden, but county governments should also become innovative in tackling the effects of climate change. As I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, may I appreciate our partners who have supported this conference, who include County Pension Fund, AMREF, Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, UNDP, among others. Thank you for your great contribution to the conference. You are true friends of devolution. A special thanks also go to our development partners, private sector, civil society, media, faith-based institutions. We appreciate your cooperation with the counties, and we anticipate deeper cooperation with you in the future. Distinguished guests, I wish you all fruitful discussions during the 2 coming days of the conference. With that long speech, which I'm not used to, may I now invite Waziri Dr. Fred Matiang'i to make his remarks, and invite our key Andre speaker, and also do the rest of the program. Thank you, and God bless you. Asanteni sana.
Considering that the law of diminishing returns may be setting in, I will execute this session with a measure